Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and hit that subscribe button if you are new to this channel. So, Eddie Hearn has gone around saying that basically looking at other options for Dillian Whyte if he doesn't accept this fight with Anthony Joshua. And those other options will be for him to be fighting in the O2 Arena or in the Manchester Arena sometime in April. And the three guys he has lined up for him if he doesn't get the fight with AJ, or if he refuses or declines to take the offer that he's offering him for the AJ fight, the three guys he's looking at is Dominic Breazeale, Luis King Kong Ortiz, and Alexander Povetkin to be facing him as basically replacements for if he doesn't get the fight with AJ. Like I said, in the O2 Arena or in the Manchester Arena. Now, to be honest with you, all three of those guys I just mentioned are all good fights for Dillian Whyte. I mean, just style-wise. Dominic Breazeale versus Dillian Whyte, I think that's a good fight. Style-wise, I think that's an entertaining fight. Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz, I think that's a good fight too. I think that's an exciting fight, actually. Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz. That's a fight that I will be looking forward to. Like, I would really be looking forward to that fight. Just to compare, because, Luis Ortiz was looked at as such a big deal win for Deontay Wilder. So I want to compare how Dillian Whyte does against Luis Ortiz compared to how Deontay Wilder did against him. Because we saw how much Deontay Wilder struggled against Luis Ortiz. We saw how he got beat up. We saw how he got rocked. We saw how he was losing that fight. And then he won via his infamous punching power, his right hand, right? That bailed him out as always. So it would be very interesting, at least for me, as a boxing fan, just to see how well Dillian Whyte does against Luis Ortiz, just so we could compare. Because imagine he fights Luis Ortiz and he destroys him in 2 rounds. And then here people were praising Deontay Wilder for beating Luis Ortiz or going life and death against Luis Ortiz. But Dillian Whyte absolutely dispatches of him in quicker fashion. Or maybe Luis Ortiz gives Dillian Whyte a difficult fight. The bottom line is I just want to see how Dillian Whyte fares against Luis Ortiz, just so we could compare. Because I like to compare fighters' performances against other fighters' performances. Just like when Adam Konecki absolutely demolished Jared Washington, and you saw how Deontay Wilder struggled against the same dude. Just goes to show you, right? So that's why I would really like to see that fight. But also, he said Alexander Povetkin. That is a good fight too, bro. Alexander Povetkin versus Dillian Whyte. Povetkin is dangerous. He's still dangerous. He's a big puncher, and we saw him against, he just recently lost against, he got knocked out against Anthony Joshua, but that was a competitive fight. It wasn't like AJ just blew him out the water. That was a competitive fight, so it would be interesting to see how Dillian Whyte fares against him too. That's another fight that we could compare. If he fights Alexander Povetkin, we could see how he does against Alexander Povetkin. Does he do a better job than AJ, or does he do a worse job than AJ? Right? Because, for example, Dillian Whyte managed to drop Joseph Parker twice. Anthony Joshua couldn't do that, right? And I remember being impressed with that. I was like, look, he managed to do something that Anthony Joshua couldn't do during the 12 rounds. He couldn't knock down. He couldn't remotely come close to knocking down Joseph Parker. But Dillian Whyte managed to do it twice. So I would like just to see that fight, just because I think it's a good fight, entertaining. So basically entertainment purposes, but also to compare, to see how good he does against both Alexander Povetkin and Luis Ortiz. But like I said in the previous video, these fights are not foregone conclusions for Dillian Whyte. Like he could lose to Luis Ortiz. He could lose to Alexander Povetkin. He could also lose to Dominic Breazeale. Those aren't easy fights for him. At least I don't think so. At least I think those are competitive fights. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he goes in there and proves me wrong and he just wipes the ring against these guys. But though these are good fights, but these are dangerous fights. So, when it comes to Dillian Whyte, I wanted him to take this fight with Anthony Joshua, just so he could take advantage of this opportunity to challenge for world heavyweight supremacy, for the titles, to become unified heavyweight champion of the world, to become #1 champion. But if he declines it, fighting against Dominic Breazeale, Ortiz, and Alexander Povetkin, those are risky fights. Those are not Those are not like foregone conclusions. You got what I'm saying? They're not foregone conclusions. If that whoever he fights, the most confident I would be in Dillian Whyte beating is Dominic Breazeale, just because I think he's overall a better fighter. But if he fought Alexander Povetkin or Luis Ortiz, I would look at that as a very 50-50 type of fight. I don't know who wins, but like I said, the problem is he could lose, and if he loses, he's gonna ruin his one opportunity he has to fight for a world championship belt against both Wilder and Anthony Joshua. Like, I'm interested to know though, like, who do you guys want to see him in there if he doesn't fight Anthony Joshua? Dominic Breazeale, Luis Ortiz, Alexander Povetkin. Like, let me know in the comment section of this video, please. I personally would actually want to see him in there with either Povetkin or Ortiz, just because those are fascinating fights for me as a boxer fan. I find those fights very intriguing, and I find those very scary fights. Scary fights that excite me. And whenever fights excite me, the fights that are scary excite me the most, basically. So those are the fights I want to see, just because of that. I think those are entertaining fights, and those aren't foregone conclusions. But who do you guys think is a more entertaining fight, or a fight that you guys want to see him in there if he can't get the Joshua fight, or if he rejects the Joshua fight? Breazeale, Ortiz, or Povetkin? Let me know in the comment section below of this video. And if you're new to the channel, thanks for watching, and subscribe and hit that like button. Bye bye, guys.